So let's talk about it. We're going to tackle one of the biggest stories of our time, the absolute explosion of generative AI. What does it mean for creators, for businesses, and, for the very idea of creativity itself? This is it. This is the question at the heart of everything. I mean, for decades, this was just stuff you'd see in the movies, right? Science fiction. But now it's a real thing we're all dealing with every day. AI is churning out content at a speed that is it's mind-boggling. Think about it. You can just type a sentence like, a golden retriever hosting a cooking show on Mars, and boom, a tool like InVideo will spit out a whole promo video for you. Stock footage, music, the whole deal. It honestly feels like magic. And okay, so you've got your video, but you need a narrator? No problem. Tools like Murph can take your script and generate a voice that sounds surprisingly human. This lets creators reach people all over the world without ever hiring a voice actor. And of course, there's the one we've all probably used at this point, whether it's ChatGPT writing your marketing emails or Grammarly's AI polishing your grammar. Text generation has basically become a daily assistant for millions of us. Okay, so let's really get into this. Because on one hand, this whole new AI toolkit is incredible. It's completely democratizing content creation, breaking down all these old barriers and empowering people in ways we've never seen before. I mean, just take a look at these. For a YouTuber, a small business owner, a marketer, these tools are an absolute game changer. They can slash production time, slash costs. One person can now do the work that used to take a whole team. That's the promise of AI, right? More creation, faster, for more people. But, and this is a huge but, that is not the whole picture. Not even close. You see, as powerful as these tools are, if you've used them for any amount of time, you start to see the cracks. This whole idea of algorithmic creativity has some very real and honestly very frustrating limits. So what does that actually look like? Well, the content can feel a little samey, It's missing that human spark of true originality. It really struggles to connect on an emotional level because, well, it doesn't have any emotions. You get weird factual errors or the tone of voice shifts halfway through a long article, and it just feels off. And that's before we even touch the giant ethical minefield of misinformation and flat-out plagiarism. And this right here, this is where the whole conversation just takes a hard turn. This quote from a report for the European Parliament really gets to the core of the danger. The very foundation that all these amazing tools are built on, it's mountains of human-created work scraped from the internet, often without anyone's permission and without paying a single dime to the people who actually made it. So, as you can imagine, this has kicked off an absolute firestorm, both legally and ethically. We're in the middle of this fundamental conflict over how these AI models are being trained, and whether that whole process is even legal to begin with. Okay, so to really get what the fight is about, you gotta know this one term, text and data mining, or TDM. Now, AI companies often argue that what they're doing is just a legal form of TDM, which has some exceptions in copyright law for stuff like scientific research. They say they're just analyzing the data, not copying it. But is that what's really going on here? This is where it gets really fascinating. Look at the difference here. Legal TDM, the kind for research, is purely analytical. The system learns about the data to find patterns. But the training for generative AI, that's reproductive. The goal is totally different. The system is learning to be like the data. It's absorbing the expressive style, the brushstrokes of an artist, the rhythm of a writer. Also, it can replicate it. And because of that key difference, we land right here, in the middle of a massive legal crisis. According to the EU Parliament's own analysis, the way things are now just isn't sustainable. Models are being trained on our data without asking, the profits aren't being shared, and those opt-out tools for artists, they're a mess, inconsistent, and often ignored. This whole situation threatens the very reason copyright exists in the first place, to encourage humans to create new things. And look, don't think for a second this is just a few artists complaining. Get this. A recent EU Commission study found that a whopping 67%, that's 2/3 of artists, lawyers, and experts, believe creators should have the right to say, no, you can't use my work to train your AI. Okay, so the problem is pretty clear, right? The big question now is, how do we fix it? Policymakers are scrambling to put together some kind of framework for accountability. The goal isn't to kill AI, but to make sure it grows up to be responsible and fair. So one of the big ideas on the table is this thing called the 3-pillar accountability test, and it actually makes a lot of sense when you break it down. First, transparency. We need to know what's in the training data. period. Second, fairness. Creators have to be compensated for their work. And third, enforcement. We need real institutions with real teeth to make sure everyone is playing by the rules. And all of this brings us back to the biggest question of all. This technology is here, it's not going anywhere, the promise is real, it's an incredible tool for creation. But the danger is just as real. A system that could consume the very human art it needs to survive. Figuring out how to make AI collaborate with us, rather than just consume us, that's the great creative and legal challenge of our generation.